Currently, you are Senior Analyst at Bain Company, and which is that one of the top three consulting firms in the world. Did multiple internships in some of the top companies like EY, Uber, American Express, IIT Delhi, and I am Rachi as well as a research internships.
And I joined DTU because I had an elder cousin here who said कि अगर तेरे को लगता है तूने बहुत पढ़ाई कर ली है, ready to have a relaxed college life, I did not want to study anymore. So I joined in thinking that ठीक है mechanical मिल गई है, but what I'll do is I'll be so good at coding that I'll get Google off campus. After one point, I was like, I can't do this. During my second year, I tried my hand at mechanical as well as a core branch because it already eliminated coding as an option by then. These societies were a big boon for me when I joined DTU, right? These tech teams are like a gold mine, I think, the kind of work that they're doing. I think for every kind of field, there is some kind of exposure in DTU.
Let's say a first year student listened to your advice and tried everything. After like trying coding, he thinks कि अब मेरे पे coding नहीं हो रही है, leave it. Right. After trying core, he thinks ये बहुत hard है, मेरे पे ये भी नहीं हो रही है. Okay, consulting is a thing. I have to. Right. So as now you are currently in the industry, you are currently in consulting. So what exactly is consulting in simple terms, and what kind of problems do you solve at Bain? काफी लोगों का एक मिसकंसेप्शन रहता है बिफोर गोइंग इवन इफ आई जस्ट गेट इनटू MBB एंड आई विल जस्ट bypass that step of MBA and just become a consultant there, right? And some people have this misconception that you can't go to that level without doing an MBA. So what is your opinion on that? These MBB like often sponsor your MBA as well. Like if you approach them for like doing MBA in top IIMs or even from abroad, that the work-life balance in consulting is really bad. Is the travel hype real or?
वो हाइप अच्छी लगती है कि अच्छा मैं हर बार 5 स्टार like hotels में रह रहा हूँ. But after a point, so they would look for peaks in your resume. What is a peak in society? PRs is beneficial but not a make or break. Maybe it's a wrong thing, but I do end up ignoring a lot of my LinkedIn messages. And then I did EY in December that year, and then the next internship in summer next year. I think I was placed by the time day one of fourth year started. Other friends got placed at Sprinkler, BlackRock. That also happened. One thing also to answer like what should a first year do is find good people. Yeah, I think one night we were just bored, right? So what we did was we went to all of the flats. We went रात 11:30-12 बजे और सबकी कुंडियां बाहर से बंद कर and then just left. आर्यभट्टा group people are texting कि भाई 10 बजे की क्लास है and I'm not able to get out because the room is locked. So consultant बनने मेरे को बातें करना तो आना चाहिए.
Over right now. That is AI. So yes, kind of a buzzword in tech. But I'm very curious to know about AI in consulting. How like hiring, consulting as an industry. What are you seeing on the ground reality that is happening right now?
Existence of Deferred MBA. He got an admit from a top US college for an MBA. So probably had I known about Deferred MBA, I think you did it pretty well, right? Asking the right questions. Because
Yeah. So recording start हो गई है. First of all, thank you Saksham Bhaiya for doing this as always. And before starting this podcast, let me introduce you to all the listeners turning in right now. So you graduated from DTU in 2023 from Mechanical Engineering branch and then made your way into consulting because currently you are Senior Analyst at Bain Company, and which is that one of the top three consulting firms in the world. And even your journey in college was very decorated because you did multiple internships in some of the top companies like EY, Uber, American Express, and IIT Delhi, and I am Rachi as well as a research internships. So that is really interesting. And while in college, you also founded a startup named Mentors Guidance. So if you want, we will definitely love to know about it further in the podcast. So yeah, that was pretty much it that I was able to find on LinkedIn. So did I get anything wrong, or you want to add anything?
no, first of all, that's very kind of you. But I think everything that you said was correct. I think except the internship at Uber part. I wish that was true, but I did not intern at Uber, sadly. But
Oh, sorry,
yes,
sorry, sorry. That was Urban Company.
yeah, no worries.
So let us start the podcast, right? So
Mhm.
to set the context of this podcast, let me tell you, like I am in my second year. I've just started my second year, and I don't have a very fixed goal about my future, about my career, right? So basically, I want to know about you that when you were in first year, coming to college just after that JE preparation phase, how was it about you? Like seeing your profile, I think it was very clear for you that you want to go in this consulting path because you did many internships of business analyst. But it would be like good to hear from you that how did you like choose your career path in starting?
Right. Right. So I think it wasn't as clear as you are referring to it as. So I remember when I joined DTU, I chose mechanical because that was the branch that I was getting on my rank. And I joined DTU because I had an elder cousin here who said कि अगर तेरे को लगता है तूने बहुत पढ़ाई कर ली है and now you want to have some fun or have a relaxed college life, then join DTU. And I was ready to have a relaxed college life. I did not want to study anymore. So, although as every 12th grader wants that they want to go into CS and then get into Google as a software engineer, that's what I wanted to do as well. And I was getting computer science at like a little worse colleges than DTU. But I was like, I am not ready to study anymore. And I'd seen my cousin at DTU having a lot of fun. He's 2 years elder than me. So I joined in thinking that ठीक है mechanical मिल गई है, but what I'll do is I'll be so good at coding that I'll get Google off campus or Uber off campus. But that's because I think that's the idea that's fed into you जब आप 11 12th में होते हो, that you go get a CS graduate, get a good job, which is not bad, but that isn't necessarily the only option that uh, should pose to students. But I think the one thing that luckily I did was that I got exposure to a lot of things in the first year itself, right? I remember trying coding for around 3 4 months, right? I think एक book होती थी Let Us See करके, it was given in the first year. तो अगर क्लास चैप्टर 1 पे होती थी तो आई वाज लाइक मैं चैप्टर 5 करके जाऊंगा, और मैं खुद के लिए कर रहा हूँ कोडिंग, मैं क्लास के लिए तो कर नहीं रहा. आई वाज वेरी एक्साइटेड. But I remember after one point, I was like, I can't do this. And it was very basic. I think कुछ pointers के chapters पर ही पहुंचे थे हम.
Okay.
So I think I spent around 4 5 months, 3 4 months trying to do coding. Then I decided I don't think so. That's the path for me. Then I got to know about non-tech and consulting and case studies from a senior. मतलब मेरे को सिर्फ नाम पता लगा that this is something that I don't even know as a career option. And during my second year, I tried my hand at mechanical as well as a core branch because that was my branch. If I can get something in it, if I like it. But I did not end up liking it as well. So it was around mid second year when I decided that I think just by elimination, I think consulting feels like, or non-tech feels like a good job for me. And then I remember talking to a senior from an actress who said, "Okay, if you want to go into consulting, then these are the biggest companies that come to campus." And then like tried to work my way backwards कि अच्छा मेरे को इस कंपनी में जाना है, तो जो जो इस कंपनी में गए हैं उनकी प्रोफाइल कैसी दिखती है, what all internships have they done, what all societies do they have on their name. I think it wasn't as clear if I have to wrap it up in a line. But I think only because I explored, as you are exploring it right now, I think it became clear to me, I think, which is the most lucrative path for me going forward.
Okay. So, by which time you got your direction that this is the direction I want to go in, like consulting? As you told that 3 4 months you actually tried coding, right? So,
Right.
when did you stopped it, and like when were you actually clear that okay, this is the direction I want to go in?
Coding, so I tried the first 3 4 months in college, ठीक है, and then I stopped. Then obviously when you get into college, कितनी 10 चीजें होती है करने को, तो you forget some things, and so I enjoyed my college life. And luckily or unluckily, after like 7 8 months in college, COVID came. So then all of me and my friends were stranded at home without an actual college life. Then that gave me a chance to try out mechanical engineering when my second year started, because first year में सबके subjects common होते हैं, so you're not really studying anything of your own branch.
Yes.
Second year में when it was online, I remember me and two other friends from mechanical, all of us were trying our hands at mechanical. Some of us were trying coding as well, but I had already eliminated coding as an option by then. And I think couple of months into second year, I was like, "Okay, I'll do mechanical as a degree, but I don't think so it interests me to the point of like aiming for a job in mechanical or building a career in there." And then I talked to a few seniors and understood कि case study होता क्या है, because till then it was just a word for me. I felt that this is something that interests me, and that's when I started applying. That's when I got into a touch with a senior who said कि if you want to try non-tech, then try and apply for research internships. Like, they are easy to get, at least easier than getting a data analyst job or internship at a startup or a big company, because these teachers in different colleges, they need interns every summer to do their manual work and then start reading about case studies online. I think by just simple elimination कि ये तीन चार career options हैं, तीन हट गई तो एक ही बची, and also the fact that luckily I liked it, I think I chose non-tech around my like second year, mid second year or something, I think.
Okay, cool. Definitely आपने अपने research internships की बात करी. We will definitely dive deep into it further in the podcast. Before coming to that part, I want to ask you that how should a first year student think about building a direction, especially in a non-CS branch? Because you were in mechanical branch, right? So,
Right.
like any other student in a non-CS branch, as you perfectly mentioned, that he have a multiple options to go in. First of all, tech, then its core branch, then the non-tech. So you told that how you choose your branch, and like I don't know, you are very satisfied about that. You got your direction by the mid of your second year. Most probably, if you want to go back, you will definitely want to choose it very early in your college days. So, how should a first year student right now approach to this? Like, how should he choose his direction?
I think one advantage that DTU provides, in my opinion, is exposure to a lot of different kind of people, especially in a lot of different kinds of societies. I think societies were a big boon for me when I joined DTU, right? Because I know for a fact that thing there are IEEE is a society for computers. In Actors, may I'll know that I'll meet people about non-tech. There are tech teams where I know that meet people in the core branches, right? And then if you're able to join one or two societies, you'll get to know enough seniors who can connect you to people who are relevant to understand those things, right? And in general as well, I think the curriculum, at least in my time at DTU, was pretty chill to the point where I know that I can do a lot of stuff and then also study and then get good grades. But I think if you're a first year student and you're not sure, right, or if even if you're sure about something, right, it can just be that it's a preconceived notion जो तुम्हारे parents या society
Yeah.
ने तुम्हें बताया हुआ है कि this is good, so do this. There's no harm in going ahead, doing it, and trying it out, right? I think the way I found, I think, seems more or less the way to go about it, right? If I thought that I wanted to do coding, I went in thinking that I bought books, I bought courses. करी मैंने 3-4 महीने, मेरे दोस्तों ने भी करी. I did not like it. One of them liked it. He kept doing it. Even he, I think, did it for a year and a half and then left it for consulting only. Yeah, so learning times can be different. It doesn't have to be कि तुम 3 महीने में ही तुम्हें decide करना है, right? It can be that you like it. I know of people who have thought that they don't like coding 4 months before like placements, and then they've sat for consulting interviews and cracked the first company or the second company, and vice versa as well. Although I think it's arguably difficult to learn coding in 4 months than it is to learn non-tech. Non-tech is pretty straightforward, right? I think if you're a first year, कर लो जो करना है, हाथ पैर मार लो. I think even these tech teams are like a gold mine. I think the kind of work that they're doing and how competitive they are. If you join the right one at the right time, I feel that you'll learn a lot, if especially if you want to go into core branches. And I think the kind of exposure that they provide, I think the top tech teams, I've seen them go to USA, Canada, Germany
Yes,
for
yes,
competition as well.
yes.
So I think for every kind of field, there is some kind of exposure in DTU, or at least there is one senior, right? So just try to find the right person. That can be through your own contacts, that can be through LinkedIn. And once you find that person, just have this the way you are having a conversation with me, the way I had conversation with my seniors. I think just give them a call. I'm pretty sure 90% of the people will be more than happy to help, or at least share how their journey was.
Okay. So, what exactly is consulting in simple terms, and what kind of problems do you solve at Bain?
So consulting to a layman is understanding a business and trying to optimize it. Again, I have only been here 2 years, so I might not have the perfect definition, but this is how I understand it. That consultants try to understand the kind of business that you are in and try to optimize it with things that they already have knowledge about, right? So it's obvious that nobody else will know your business better than you, but they might know things that you don't know about, right? And they might know of opportunities that you don't know about. To able to be able to leverage those things, I think consultancy is important. A lot of people say it's a sham. To some extent it is, but I feel it also provides a lot of value, which is like overshadowed by the kind of jokes that are in, which is like, again, very fine. But as per the work there is for a person who's in consulting day to day, firstly, I think there's a difference between what a consultant does or what I am doing, because I am in the back end part. I am at Bain Capability Networks, not Bain front end. But at the same time, I think there's a very strong pipeline from Bain capability to Bain as well. So there's a good chance that I would also want to shift to a front end role in 6 months or a year or maybe sometime later as well. Work for a front end consultant would look like researching about the project, making PPTs and Excel. That's all true. तुम्हें logos align करने पड़ते हैं, because at the end of the day, whatever you prepare is as good as how you're showing it off, right? You could have done hundreds of pages worth of research, but if you can't get that across to the other person in simple terms or in a short amount of time that they have, deciding कि अच्छा इस 100 pages में these 3 pages are the most important, right? And to be able to show that on a presentation, I think that's also a very good skill that people need to learn, considering how abundantly PowerPoint presentations or even Canva is used, like just the format of presentations is used. I think as a consultant, more or less your life looks like that, but I'll be able to tell you better if and when I reach that stage. As for a backend consultant, the one for which Bain hires from DTU, I think you're learning a lot of products, right? Essentially, backend consultants are supporting front-end consultants. It's very rare that we directly work with a client. More often than not, we are supporting the front-end Bain team who is then supporting the client. So if their case is 2 months long and they think, acha, in every case, there are certain kinds of products that are needed, right? Some kind of analysis that are being done repeatedly. So that's where BCN or the backend team comes in, who make sure that they have expertise in that. And तो अगर 2 महीने का बेन फ्रंट एंड टीम का केस चल रहा है, इस प्रोडक्ट में 1 हफ्ता चलेगा, तो instead of doing that themselves, they'll outsource it to a back end Bain team. One, why? Because they'll be able to do other things on their own in that 1 week. Second, because we are in India and Bain backend in itself is cheaper, so they have to pay less cost for their own for our staffing as compared to their own. So it's cheaper for the client. तो अगर client ने उन्हें X amount of budget दिया, it's better for them that they hire a Bain team, sorry, a backend team if the backend team has expertise in that. And third, I think a lot of consultants are more generalist because they're doing everything, right? But at backend, we're developing expertise in certain kind of products. So there are more chances that we'll be able to do the same work in better quality than them because we're doing that same work day in and day out. But they, on the other hand, are doing different things every day. I
Right,
think
right.
in general, I think that's the gist of what happens at Bain front and Bain back.
Okay. So again, बहुत अच्छे से आपने बता दिया. So that is good. आपने एक चीज बोली that you are most probably thinking to like shift your career from back end team to front end. So first of all, is that possible? आप बोल रहे हो that definitely it would be possible. Like काफी लोगों का एक मिसकंसेप्शन रहता है बिफोर गोइंग, लाइक काफी लोगों का इस तरीके से भी मिसकंसेप्शन रहता है दैट इवन इफ आई जस्ट गेट इनटू एमबीबी एंड आई विल जस्ट लाइक surpass bypass that step of MBA and just become a consultant there, right? And some people have this misconception that you can't go to that level without doing an MBA. So what is your opinion on that?
And I think both are very genuine ways of reaching that point. I think both routes are acceptable, at least for MBB, McKinsey, BCG, Bain. For sure, I can say they hire freshers who have just completed their bachelor's and then MBA as well. But at the same time, they hire people who have done 4 years of bachelor's and then 2 years work experience, right? So, for example, from Bain backend to Bain frontend. Once you complete 2 years at Bain backend, you get a shot at trying to get an interview at Bain frontend, right? Although the acceptability rates are low and they vary year by year, but what I heard from a senior was that अगर Bain front end को 15 consultants चाहिए, so they decide then every year how many people will they take from MBA, how many people will they take from Bain backend. So essentially for them it's kind of a pipeline. या तो यहाँ से ले सकते हैं या वहाँ से ले सकते हैं. That being said, I think MBA will definitely have advantages for that person in the long term, right? Even if I do 2 years of work at Bain backend and then get selected in front end versus somebody who did 2 years of MBA instead of Bain backend and then came in. हम आएंगे same role पे, but I think in long term, obviously having that credential of an MBA would be definitely advantageous to them.
And can you also tell one thing like myth bust or something like that कि बाहर से लोगों को एक और misconception रहता है that these MBB like often sponsor your MBA as well. Like if you approach them for like doing MBA in top IIMs or even from abroad and you show them your scores and all, so they are like they agree to sponsor your MBA, and then in the contract that you came back to the company at some
Right.
higher level.
Yeah, no, I think that is true, but I've not seen it happen a lot, at least Bain backend में. Maybe I've heard one or two people having done that. But at the same time, backend में it's not very applicable because you would not want to go for an MBA from backend and then come back in backend only because that defeats the whole purpose. You'd want to use that as a leverage to go to front end. But definitely, I've heard a lot of front end people use that. But I'm not 100% sure how that works, like what the contract is essentially like. But you're right. I think यही कुछ होता है that they sponsor your MBA, but in turn, you have to sign a bond which says that you'll work at the same company, you'll come back at the same company at this level and work for X many years without leaving. If you leave, then you have to pay some amount, I am guessing. I think sponsorship do happen.
Okay, perfect. So now let us talk about the work-life balance. It is a quite known fact, or you can say the rumor in for the outsiders that the work-life balance in consulting is really bad. So, what is your opinion on it?
Yeah, again, I think there'll be a little differentiation between back end and front end here. Front end definitely बहुत खराब है in terms
Okay.
of work-life hours. In general, you'll be working longer hours, 10, 12 hours a day on average. That's what I've heard from my seniors who've been at front end roles. And but at the same time, you're getting paid as well, pretty good there in terms of non-tech compensation. For back end, right, for where I am, I think the hours are good enough. They're not very long as well. Sometimes they stretch, right? Because it depends on case to case how much work there is on that particular day. So in general, you'd want to end at X p.m., but it depends on how long the case is. So if the case demands, then you'll be working till X plus 5 or X plus 4 as well, right? Uh, it changes from day to day. But I think if you want to be in non-tech and if you want to be in consulting, that's a price that you have to pay. And I think the only reason I can think people do this is again good compensation. I think consulting also has a lot of good exit options when you think about it. That because essentially you're becoming a generalist, right? For example, if I think of other roles in non-tech fields, whether it's a product analyst or some risk analyst at different companies, they are amazing profiles, right? They might even pay better in some cases. But at the same time, you're essentially becoming specific to one task, which again is not a bad thing, but in terms of exit options from that role, you would prefer and the next company would prefer कि अच्छा product analyst था तो let's hire this person as a product manager. But at the same time, if you're going from consulting, I think it becomes a little easier in terms that you can go for a founder's office role as well, a data analyst role as well, a data scientist role if you have the skills. So I think that, and I think front end consulting also a lot of exit opportunities into finance, which again is extreme working hours but pays a lot.
And is the travel hype real or over?
So back end mein there is almost no travel. You'll be lucky if you get a traveling case. Front end may have heard people traveling a lot, right? Again, depends on the kind of case that you have, the client that you have. If the client wants to call you at the location as well, it could be your office is in Delhi, but your client office is also in Delhi. So instead of traveling to your office, you're going to client office. So I wouldn't call that travel a lot. But there are people that I know who do a lot of traveling cases as well, where they're going from one city to another. Uh, they think that's also a life that's worth living, but I think it gets hectic after a point. ल- वो हाइप अच्छी लगती है कि अच्छा मैं हर बार 5 स्टार लाइक होटल्स में रह रहा हूँ. But after a point, if every week you have to pack your bags, go to a different hotel, then 1 week you're staying at home, then 1 week you're going to another office, I think it gets tiring at some point. But I haven't done it yet, so once I do it, I'll be hopefully able to tell you better. But I can imagine it getting tiring.
ओके तो यानी वर्क रिलेटेड ट्रैवल के बारे में तो आपने बता दिया बट लाइक एक ये चीज भी अबाउट कंसल्टिंग सुनने में आती है दैट वर्क कल्चर इज इवन दो वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस इज इवन दो considered to be bad but the work culture in general is good in the way that you like constantly have those
Team offsites. I think again depends on the company as well, but I think most big consulting firms have these big trips and offsites every year. I think in terms of that, at least at Bain, right? At least even at backend, I think I'm pretty happy with the kind of perks that they are giving, right? Whether it's an offsite every year or party like in a few months or something. I think that is true. Uh, we also have trainings where we go and stay at a hotel for like a couple of days and do our trainings there. Although दिन में पढ़ाई ही होती है, but शाम को you have the time to yourself and you can do anything. So I think in terms of that, consulting is a good place, right? And- But at the same time, it's like कि वो सुनने में अच्छा लगता है. But would you, if you don't like your job, would you want to do it just for this offsite once a year or party 3 times a year? I don't think so. That's a good reason. It's definitely a good to have post if you like your job. So
definitely
in
So, okay, consulting हमने like pretty much काफी चीजें cover about
right,
consulting and you really beautifully explained everything. Now, before wrapping this part up, me being from mathematics and computing branch, which is a tech branch, right? So, like in general, tech branches से लोगों की एक expectations होती है that you will go in coding, you will grab those, highly inflated packages.
right,
But like there is expectations from tech branches कि उसके students go in coding only even though they have edge in that part sometimes मैं काफी बार सोचता हूँ that I am more inclined towards like solving real life problems in business
right.
what consulting offers so it's like can CSIT students also aim for MBB firms and what kind of profiles or traits do they look for
I think you can. I think if I remember correctly, Bain, when it came on campus, was open for all branches. I even know a couple of people from my batch as well as my senior batch who were from CS, who were from IT branches, and then they got into Bain. So definitely you can try your hand at that. I don't think so. Just your branch being a tech branch would stop you. I think because it's open for all branches and they're looking for people that they want, not a branch that they want. So I know people from environmental who are here. I know people from civil engineering. I know people from electrical who are at Bain. So all branches people are there, right? So I think branch is not something that's stopping. What they want from you is peaks, right? That's a concept that I heard from my senior, which I really like. So each resume, at least in non-tech or consulting terms, has like 4 or 5 headers. One would be your education, second would be your work experience, that the internships that you did in college. Third would be probably your academic projects that you did. क्या तुमने कोई paper publish करा है या नहीं? Your extracurricular activities, which includes your competitions that you went to, uh, and then finally your PORs, right? Were you part of any society? Did you hold leadership positions? So they would look for peaks in your resume. What is a peak is something exceptional done in any of the headers, right? Were you uh, a 10 CGPA person in 10th grade and 99% in 12th grade? That's a peak, right? Were you a rank 5,000 and under in JE? That's a peak. If it
okay
comes to work experience, did you do an internship at Uber? Did you do an internship at Amazon? That's a peak. Were you president of your society? So हर एक header के अंदर what is the best level that you can achieve, right? Did you get paper published in a journal which is extremely highly regarded? Did you win a national level case competition when it comes to consulting in terms of consulting. I think that's what I was told by my senior when I was in my third year. Okay, try to build peaks, right? Where you think it's possible, because it's not possible for me to build a peak in my education when I know 10th or 12th निकल गया है, first second year में मैंने अच्छे marks नहीं. Maybe I can get a good CGPA by the time placement comes around, but I don't think so I can change a 7 CGPA to a 9.9 CGPA. But at the same time, can I get a society POR? I can definitely get that. Can I get good case study competition wins in my CV? I can definitely get that. Maybe if I try, I can get a good internship. Can I get great academic projects? I can definitely get that. So I think if you think in terms of peaks and what you think is achievable, if you can get 2, 3 peaks across these 5, 6 headers, I think that's a good point to start, at least when you put your CV in front of these big firms.
Like first of all, आपने इसी बीच एक बहुत important question भी clear कर दिया that society PORs are actually helpful in these companies. So like that is good. So other than that, as a follow up to this question only, what are the hard skills that you think are required for these roles? Like hard skills in the sense, जैसे मैंने बताया, for CSIT students, if they want to go in there, they they need to do DSA or something like that. And
Right.
what about other skills like Power BI is told to some people, and like that, what are the hard skills you should focus on?
Right. So before answering that, I'll clarify on the society and POR bit as well. I think it's definitely important, right? It's a great to have if you're a president or vice president at a good society, right? Especially uh, something that the person in front of you, the HR, will recognize, right? कि अच्छा, this society I've heard of, इसका president है तो अच्छा ही होगा. So that definitely leaves a good impression in front of them. But at the same time, I think it's not as important as maybe having a peak in your education. कि तुम्हारी 9.5 CGPA, that's a great thing, right? But if you're president of a society, it's not 100% sure that that society is great or it was extremely competitive. Because at the end of the day, it's just you are trying to showcase a kind of status that मैं president था, so that says that I was extremely competitive and I reached that top spot. That's what you want the person in front of you to think. So if you think in those terms, is getting an internship at Amazon more hard versus a society POR? I think the former is more hard. So at this, while it's extremely beneficial to have good PORs in your CV, I get a lot of juniors asking me, कि, "Acha, I was a co-head, is that good enough? I was this department's head, is that good?" I think if you don't have that, it's not a break thing, right? If you can like show yourself as a great candidate in other headers, I think that's way more important, right? Society PORs is beneficial but not a make or break. Okay, now coming to your second question. I think in terms of hard skills, it's way more easier than my tech friends. They are like working day and night to even get to a level where they're good enough to sit for placements, right? So in terms of hard skills, they have it way more tougher. For non-tech, at least what I prepared was Excel का course कर लो, right? Know your shortcuts, know what a VLOOKUP, what XLOOKUP is, right? Know basic concepts, know index maths. But at the end of the day, you'll be able to do those as quickly when only when you're doing them on a daily basis, right? तुम course कर लोगे, you'll have the knowledge. I think that's good enough for a company because they won't expect you to implement those shortcuts in front of them right then and there. But you should have that knowledge with you, or they should at least see अच्छा इसने. Same for other skills, I think. I did SQL because I found that out of engineering, if I want to go into a consulting field, the best way for me is probably a data analyst option because most companies do not hire consultants right out of engineering, right? Maybe right out of an MBA or at least top 5, 6 top IITs, they hire consultants directly, but not from DTU or NITs. So, because that is the only way out for me if I want to go into consulting, SQL becomes very important because a lot of startups and companies use SQL for data analysis. So, Excel, SQL I did, Python mein I did the data analysis libraries, which are NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib for plotting them, Seaborn I did thoda bahut. These three things, and finally, one I think everybody who's aiming for a non-tech thing and thus a data analyst job from engineering colleges is a data visualization tool, right? So it can either be Tableau or Power BI or a third, some other, but most companies either use this or that, right? So if you're able to get a good grasp on either one of them, I don't think so one is better than the other. And showcase projects in that. Because again, even if you're creating a project for your own resume, you can do Python analysis, but you'll not show code on your resume, or you'll not upload a link that redirects to your code, right? You'd want to upload a link that redirects to a Tableau or a Power BI dashboard, because that's more intuitive, right? As a recruiter, I'd want to directly see the results. I would not want to go through your code. So I think these three things and then a data visualization tool should be enough, at least for data and most data analyst roles, and even for a company like Bain or McKinsey, they expect you to know this much. Other things, so for example, at Bain, some departments also use this software called Alteryx. I did learn thoda sa, but then when I came here, I found out that my department does not use Alteryx at all. So I was like, there's no use of me in learning that. So then it becomes a lot about the kind of company that you're joining, and they might be using a specific tool that you would have to learn then. So I think these three, four things are applicable to most companies. So if you're able to get your hand good in these, you'll be at a great advantage.
Okay. Perfect. So yeah, you have educated us well about consulting. So thanks for that. Now let us jump to your next part about your internships that you did in college, right? So let me put the question in a very clear way. First of all, tell about your research internships and their experience. How did you get that? What was the experience in the internships itself? And that IIT Delhi and IIM Ranchi internship. And after that, tell those big names internship, those
Right.
EY, Urban Company, and American Express. How did you get those, and what you actually did there, and how did it help you in future?
Right. So n- I'll definitely answer your question, and you're being very sweet, Abhi. ठीक है, इतना तो मैंने कुछ करा नहीं. Why don't you tell me what? So you've been talking to a lot of people, right? You've talked to like at least on podcast three, four people. I'm pretty sure you've talked to way more
Yes,
people.
yes, yes.
You deciding what have you tried in the past 1 year? What have you not liked? What have you liked?
Okay, so basically,
Hey, bhai, you're already where I was in my third year. You've tried that many things, so kudos to you. I think it's good. I think that's the beauty. I think that DTU provides with the kind of exposure that it gives. At least for me, I can say that I met all kinds of people there, and I think that helped form a lot of
yes,
decisions regarding coding,
for sure.
regarding. I think not just DTU, across colleges as well. Most people would want to help you. Just that I think sometimes I found out that because they have their own lives and it gets very busy, especially when you get into jobs. It happens with me as well. I get some message from a junior, right, and I intend to reply and I miss it for some reason, and then that chat goes kahin niche. So I to recommend it to all juniors as well. If some senior does not reply, that you know of, मतलब अगर तुम नहीं जानते, maybe not, but if you talk to them even once, right, I to always double text, triple text them, right. I am shameless in that aspect, and that's what I tell my juniors as well. Okay, just keep on doing, and that's what you did as well. I think I forgot to reply to one of your messages as well. Because it's not that they do not want to reply you, right?
Yes,
90% time,
yes,
their intention is not that I don't want to talk to this person. It's more, I think, in the angle that they might have forgotten to reply, or something other than that must have come up, especially during weekdays. So if I have to talk to people, I make sure कि Saturday को मैं एक बार refresher text भेज देता हूँ, because they're more likely to reply on Saturdays. And this way, I've even talked to people. I remember talking to an actor senior who lives in the USA with his, like, he's so senior, he has a wife and kids there, and he works in some big firm. And I was in my third year. I was like, I got your number through this alumni group, and I would really love to connect with you and like ask a few questions. He did not reply on a Tuesday, I think. By the time Saturday came around, I texted him again. He's like, and he was extremely sweet. He's like, let's schedule a call for tonight. And the call is really helpful. So
yeah,
I think that's a big pro tip for any junior. Talk to people and then be shameless in your aspect. Once you at least know them, then be shameless in double texting, triple texting them. And 90% of the time, the kind of people that you'll meet will be very happy to help you. Um, then, yeah, sorry, coming back to the question that you originally asked.
yeah. First of all,
Yeah, yeah.
appreciate this thing that meanwhile you answering that you actually advised a really good thing about being shameless, right? So
Yeah,
in every podcast, there like till now, जितने मैंने करे हैं, in three of the podcasts, I had this part where I asked the guests about how to reach out, right?
right.
Even though I didn't ask you right as of now, but you actually like gave a really good advice for it, that everything boils down to this way, for reach out is to be shameless.
Yeah, exactly right. Because especially I think you texted first on LinkedIn, right? I make sure that I reply to most messages on WhatsApp, but LinkedIn, because there's so many messages coming in, especially for referrals, right? And you're not sure which ones that you want to give at the end of the day. So maybe it's a wrong thing, but I do end up ignoring a lot of my LinkedIn messages, unless otherwise it's somebody asking like, I want to have a discussion about this topic. Can you help me explore that or something like that? Then I make sure that I reply them with my number. Ki, please text me on WhatsApp on this number. Otherwise, I'll forget to reply here. So I think, at least for me, the way to contact me is if you're able to source my number from somewhere, some group or some senior of yours. I think that's the way to go about it. And that's what I try with other people as well, right? The first thing that I do when somebody replies to me on LinkedIn is like, if you're fine, can we connect on WhatsApp? This is my number. You can text hi if you're comfortable. And most of the people end up texting there. If they've replied at least once, they end up texting there. I think it's way easier to have a conversation directly on call rather than me asking a question one day, फिर वो बंदा अगले दिन रिप्लाई कर रहा है, then I'll ask a follow up and वो बंदे का मन ही नहीं करेगा इतना बात करने का. So
Correct.
at the end of the day, it's a 15-20 minute conversation that happens way better over call than on text.
Correct.
Be shameless is the motto to go when you're approaching people, especially seniors.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, like now coming back to the question, my question was about your internships.
Right.
First of all, tell about your research internships that you did at IIT Delhi and IIM Ranchi, and then those big tech internships, big companies internship,
Right.
American Express, Urban Company, and EY. How did
Yeah.
you get those? What was your experience, and how did it help you in future?
Right. So I think research internships, only purpose of doing them was that I want to get something on my resume, right? My resume was empty because kitna hi tum education, extracurricular activities. And especially when you're a first year, second year, you haven't done a lot in college. Most of your achievements are from school, if there are any, right? So I talk to seniors like, how do I get internships when I don't have any, right? How do I show recruiters कि मैं ये कर सकता हूँ? He said that it's easier to get research internships than internships at companies, right? Again, I'm not saying it's not possible. I've seen so many juniors of mine get internships at like great startups, right? Like without anything on their resume, right? Without having any past experience in internships. So that's definitely possible. But I think it's a little more easier if you go for research internships. And the way I went about it, the way I was suggested was to just blast them with cold emails, right? I think volume, obviously quality matters, but I think volume matters way more because at the end of the day, if I am emailing a professor at IIM Ahmedabad, I can't tell them कि I've done this course in behavioral finance, आप मेरे को ले लो. They're a professor at that damn school, so they know more than me, चाहे मैं कितने ही courses कर लूं. So the purpose of me reaching out to them should be that how can I help them, right? As an engineer, the best thing that I can provide to them is maybe a little bit of coding expertise or Excel expertise, or if nothing, then manual labor, right? If they want to do some task जिसमें बहुत ज़्यादा मेहनत लगेगी और बिल्कुल brainless work है, they'd much rather get a free research intern and get them to do it, and they can at the end of that provide a certificate to the junior. तो junior भी खुश और वो भी खुश क्योंकि उनका काम हो गया. So that's the way I approached it, where I made a personalized email, like I made a template with blanks in them so that I can personalize it for each professor. That was the first step. Second step was to go through the websites of all of these top IIMs and then the management department at top IITs, your FMS, your ISB as well. And then also a lot of international colleges as well, right? Wharton, Harvard. There's no harm in trying, right? You never know when you're going to get a yes.
Yes.
First part was making the template, the email template. The second part was getting shortlisting professors, right? Because I would not want to apply to each one of them because बहुत सारे so even if I shortlist 5-6 professors from each university and like do 20 universities, that's already 100 professors. And once I do that, I can get their emails in an Excel. And हर रोज रात को I used to sit, I remember, for like 1 or 2 hours and do this exercise where I used to go to each person, each of their profiles, see what kind of work they're doing. If I'm not extremely interested, I'd probably read the abstract of their latest research paper, write that in the blank. "Hey, I read this research papers of yours. I found XYZ very interesting. I know Python, I know SQL, I know Excel. I can use that and leverage that to help you in the work that you're doing. And I'd be happy to intern with you over the summer." And I think I did this in Feb or March because I knew it's summer vacations are in, so I would want to do an internship then. Once I did that, and especially for professors I like, then I went into depth, gets what kind of research papers are they publishing? Have they done anything else? Have they done any podcast or YouTube videos that I can see? And then for them, I made very personalized emails, which are completely different from the template that I use, like because I wanted to maximize my chances there. I think over the course of 1 or 2 weeks, every night I used to sit for 1 or 2 hours and schedule emails, right? Because I would not want कि रात को मैं email भेजूँ, सुबह उनके पास इतनी सारी emails आती है और मेरी email कहीं नीचे चली. So I used to schedule my emails for I think 9:30 or 9:45
Yes,
or
yes.
some odd times 9:43 ताकि उन्हें ये ना लगे कि ये तो scheduled थी.
हाँ.
So every night I used to send a bunch of emails, and I think over the course of 2 weeks I sent around 200, 250 emails across colleges, right? And उसके बाद I used to get replies, mostly rejection. I think I got in total 15, 20 replies, so that 10% conversion rate in terms of replies. And most of them were no's. One thing I did notice was that I was more likely to get a reply from an international professor than an Indian professor for some reason. But चाहे वो no ही बोल रहे हैं, but वो at least reply कर. उनको कुछ एक्सेल पे एक डेटाबेस बनवाना था with sources from like across the internet. So I used to spend 1 hour a day trying to go through those sources and then mentioning those metrics. तो ऐसा कोई मैं expertise वाला काम नहीं कर रहा था. It was just manual labor. But at least I knew कि if I have this internship, I have some kind of credentials that I can show to get my next internship. Same at IIM Ranchi, same at IIT Delhi. I know, luckily, one of my friends who was applying for research internships at the same time that I was, she got into IIM Ahmedabad. There, the work that she was getting was a little better, definitely. And I think she was also getting paid very less, like under 10,000 or like 10, 15,000 a month, right? Or maybe even less than that. But it was way better because I was doing it for free.
Okay.
I was like, I'm getting an internship, that's more than enough. But I think the kind of work also that she had, she was using Python and was doing some analysis for the professor that she was working under. So you never know what kind of work you're going to get. I had another friend who got under this professor at ISB. So I think if you just keep moving your hands and legs, you'll end up somewhere. And I think just keep trying, and that should be the way to go, especially when you're doing this cold email wala route, when you're going this route. I'd say volume matters, but also quality, right? They do not want to see a chat GPT message which has hey and name in like angular brackets कि भाई इतना तो
They,
change करो. And nothing turns you off more than a message like that from a random person. Like at least put in the effort, right? I've gotten messages from people with names that are not mine. It's like, hey Ritesh, I want this is internships, right? So I think be careful in that aspect. Try to personalize it to them, maybe talk about some. So for example, I was reaching out to people I think a couple of months ago. And what I tried to do this time through LinkedIn messaging as well, I was reaching out to them. So what I did was like I found something quirky in their profile. So this guy who would put a post about skydiving, like a photo of them skydiving, right? In my first sentence, like, "Hi XYZ. I hope the skydiving was as fun as it looks in the photo. Anyway, I have this question." And that, I don't know if that was the reason that he replied, but I think it must have definitely helped. So, right, how can you stand out? One thing that I learned from a senior, this was later, like after my research internship, when I was applying to startups through cold emailing, it was ke have a very catchy subject line, right? Matlab, if I'm sending a email to Zomato, why not to have a line like, how can you improve Zomato in 3 ways? Like, अगर मैं देख रहा हूँ मैं Zomato में बैठूं, why would I not want to open that rather than if somebody is writing application for summer analyst job, right? So at least your opening of mail gets done through that way. So I think if you're able to stand out that way, उसके बाद तुम्हारा resume कितना अच्छा, that depends on that. But I think these are some good tips and tricks that I'm not aware of all of them. But if you're able to gather them, I think cold emailing or cold messaging is also an art that you can perfect, right? And it's a very important life skill, especially when you're in the corporate job where networking is like everything. Yeah. So I think second year end was when I did IIM Ranchi and then IIT Delhi, right? 1.5 month each or something like that. I think दोनों common थी for 10 days, but I asked both the professors, they were fine with it because इतना कोई ऐसा तो था नहीं that every day I have to clock in for 6-7 hours, right? They used to give work and they used to say it's deadline. As long as I was doing that, they were happy. Then EY happened in December of that year. So, for example, the way you are in first year right now, so I ended my second year in the summer vacations. I did this, and then
Okay.
I did EY in December that year, and then the next internship in summer next year. Big companies, I think it's definitely achievable, but it helps if you have somebody that you know that works there, right? Especially at big positions. That's how I got the big internships that I have on my CV, both of them. It's easier if you have somebody there, right? Otherwise, it becomes a little difficult to get into MNCs because they're very high regard for the kind of procedures and places that they take their people from, right? So it's very difficult to cold email them and get internships. Again, it's not entirely impossible. I've seen people get into big MNCs as well through just cold emailing, but it's relatively difficult. I think I would also argue to some extent startup internships are way more valuable as a college student because at the end of the day, why I was doing this internship was कि I was pretty sure I want to go into non-tech, but I'd also want to see कि day-to-day life क्या होती है, right? I like the concept, but what if I don't like the work day-to-day there? So that's why I wanted to do those internships. With big MNCs क्या होता है? There's a lot of procedures that you have to go through. right? हर एक चीज का एक पूरा स्टैंडर्ड को ये आपको माउस लेना है उसके लिए आप इसको ईमेल करो वो आपको रिप्लाई करेगा वो आपको बताएगा यहाँ जाना है so with startup that's not there right if I'm doing a 2 month internship at a startup I'm learning from day one itself right मेरी 2 दिन की onboarding training नहीं है जिसमें मेरे को 4 चीजें वो पहले दिन बताते हैं कि देखो ये तुम्हारी हेल्थ पॉलिसी है ये तुम्हारे सैलरी है इतनी छुट्टियां हैं लेट्स गेट टू वर्क राइट बिकॉज दैट्स हाउ a 10% or a 50% startup would work. Obviously, it's easier for me to say that because I got internships in those big companies, but I would argue that as a college student, especially when you're trying a lot of things, and especially when your goal is to learn through those internships, a startup internship is way more valuable. For example, I learned way more in urban company than I did in other two companies. My experience
Okay.
in those two also was great, but in terms of learning, in terms of the kind of things that I did, how much involved I was there, right? I think I was working as much as a full-time person at urban company. I don't think so. They said कि अच्छा ये intern ऐसे कम काम दो, right? When the couple of days I went to office because mostly it was online because COVID was going on. I was staying as long as my FT guy who was training me did. And this urban company is an interesting story because how I got urban company was because उस time placements का time आ गया था and he wanted to focus on placements. Luckily, I had gotten placed in Bain already because that's one of the first companies to come to campus. So I was free. So I was like,
Okay.
if you're leaving, why don't you just refer me because I am free. I am free to do this internship. So he referred me. I got in through that. So again, through this sheer networking and connecting with people who are doing good things, I think you can achieve a lot.
ओके कूल सो आपने इंटर्नशिप्स और उसके बारे में बता दिया लाइक आपने पेन की प्लेसमेंट के बारे में भी टच करा इन दिस कन्वर्सेशन तो एक बार इन शॉर्ट ये बता सकते हो दैट हाउ पेन प्लेसमेंट हैपेंड लाइक व्हाट वाज द
Mhm.
टाइमलाइन राउंड्स एंड प्रोसेस
Yeah, so Bain come, I don't know when it comes now, but in our time, in the time when my seniors were getting placed, Bain is usually one of the first companies to come on campus, right? If I remember vacations, our college started on 1st August, fourth year, but Bain already was like 20th July forms, 25th July, 27th July interviews हो गए थे. I think I was placed by the time day one of fourth year started. So when I
डैम
went to college, already had touchwood, I had an offer in hand. So that reduces a lot of stress because then you have a year pura in your hands with not a lot of work because ज़्यादा credits होते नहीं है fourth year में. That's what people try, like, and
हाँ.
then you can touch on other things, whether it's a CAT or a GMAT. I think getting placed early is a very big boon, but at the same time, I'd like to preface it by saying that a lot of people that I know who were extremely great, right? Even I would say their resumes were better than mine, did not get placed like immediately, right? Might not have been Bain, but like even in like the first week or so. So it's extremely difficult to see your friends get placed and then having to go and show up to interviews and recruitment tests every day. And maybe it's easier to me because I touchwood did not see that phase, but I saw my friends, and I feel a lot of it is also luck as well. You can prepare your hardest, but even if there's a 20% luck factor, it can go wrong multiple times, right? That's a possibility. I think just keep at it, because please, if you are in the top 40-50 percentile of your peer group who are getting, like, who are aiming for a certain kind of job, I think you're most definitely going to get placed, and also at a good company, right? So that friend that I'm talking about, he got placed at a great company, had a package higher than all of us at a non-tech firm. So it always works out in the end. So Bain happened early on, late July-ish, early August. And I think other friends got placed at Sprinkler, BlackRock. That also happens in July only, if I'm not.
Right, right. So
And sorry, I'll cut you off there. One thing also to answer, like, what should a first year do is find good people. Yeah, I think my biggest uh, push for myself was that I have a good peer group. मतलब, the friends, the 4 or 5 closest friends that I had in college were amazing to have a great fun time with, because हर रोज हम फर्स्ट ईयर में कॉलेज से आते थे हॉस्टल में और कुछ नहीं करते थे, ठीक है? कुछ भी नहीं करते थे, ठीक है? आई रिमेम्बर हम बहुत रैंडम चीजें करते. वन नाइट आई थिंक द वे द हॉस्टल, आई डोंट नो इफ यू नो आर्यभट्टा हॉस्टल जो है, द वे इट्स मेड crazy. So the way it's made is that they were basically apartments for like blue collar workers पहले, but then because I think they had a lot of students, they turned it into a hostel. तो उसके अंदर बाहर कुंडी लग जाती है हर एक अपार्टमेंट के बाहर, एंड देन उसमें आप लॉक करते हो यू. One
yes,
night
yes.
we were just bored, right? So what we did was we went to all of the flats in all of the apartments, and apartment is a way fancier word for what it actually is, right? The state of living is not good, but if I can call them apartments, we went रात को 11:30-12 बजे और सबकी कुंडियां बाहर से बंद कर, and then just left. Okay, for no reason. Like, it's not like we had a beef with it. And then सुबह in the Aryabhatta group, people are texting कि भाई 10 बजे की class है, and I'm not able to get out because the room is locked. So college life is definitely great when you get friends like that. But at the same time, I made sure that these people around me, they're also ambitious in their sense, right? The first year में मैं coding try कर रहा था, तो they were also trying coding. So they were like, ऐसा करता हूँ मैं यूडेमी पे पाइथन का कोर्स ले लेता हूँ, तू वेब डेवलपमेंट का ले ले, तू डीएसए का ले ले, एंड देन वील एक्सचेंज पासवर्ड्स, राइट? वी डोंट नीड सर्टिफिकेशन, वी नीड टू लर्न और सी कि हमें अच्छा लगता है या नहीं. And so we're doing that. When COVID started, right, when I tried to get my hands at research internships, so I was the first one to suggest कि कुछ करते हैं यार, अब तो बैठे हुए हैं कब से. So then when I was trying to get internships, they all also said कि हम क्यों पीछे रहें. So that's how my other friend got internship at IIM Ahmedabad. This other friend got internship at IIM Ranchi. So that
Okay.
happened. Later on, some other friend got internship at Unacademy or some big company through cold messaging. Like, भाई ये कर रहे हैं, मैं क्यों खाली बैठा हुआ हूँ? So that's when I tried to get an internship at EY. So the biggest motivating factor for you would be your peers around you doing more. That will motivate you to do more. So be very careful in the kind of people that you choose, the kind of friends that you choose. It's very easy to fall into groups where people do not do anything, and that essentially becomes your reality. मेरे
Yes.
दोस्त ने थर्ड ईयर या फोर्थ ईयर तक कुछ नहीं करा, तो आई माइट नॉट सी कि भाई आधे बैच ने इतना सब कुछ कर लिया अपने रिज्यूमे, लाइक अरे यार इस बंदे ने कुछ नहीं करा तो मैं क्यों करूं, जब ये करेगा तब देख लेंगे, अगर इसका कुछ हो जाएगा तो मेरा भी हो ही जाएगा. सो essentially that becomes the bubble that you're living inside. In I've met, like, I've been in with them in a lot of societies as well. कुछ societies में जिसमें मैं था, मैंने उन्हें enter करवा. We used to stay together the whole first year and essentially the whole college life only. I remember in first year we were sitting in my room in Aryabhatta and we like कि भाई ये president बन के तो काफी चौड़ आ जाती है कॉलेज में, ऐसे करते हैं president बनेंगे. So then we explored societies a little bit and I remember one night saying कि यार let's aim के भाई हम तीनों presidents बनेंगे अलग अलग society के. One guy said he wants to become president of the art society. One I said I want to become president of an actors. One guy said he wants to be the head of the NG Fest. And that luckily happened, right?
Okay.
I was the president of an actors. This other guy was the president of Kalakriti, the art society. The third guy was like at a great big position in the
And
NG
Japan.
Fest. Exactly. I think CC or kuch to tha, right? Even I don't remember his exact position. So that, and that guy was also doing coding. So as long as the people around you are people who do a lot of stuff, and in turn you would also have to be that friend.
Yes.
So I think that's also one thing that I'd want everybody to do, especially in their college, is find a good set of 3-4 people. I think 3-4 people is a great group, right? उससे ज़्यादा बड़ा होता है तो unnecessary complications आ जाती हैं. I think having a group of 4-5 people and having a core group of 3 people is the best.
Yes, yes. Perfect. Perfect
And
advice from
sorry,
you.
I forgot your question.
नहीं नहीं, क्वेश्चन तो उसके इंटर्नशिप के बारे में था और फिर बेन के राउंड्स के बारे में था, बट या डेफिनेटली आफ्टर व्हाट यू सेड इट वाज अ रियली गुड एडवाइस. ठीक है, हमने ये वाला पार्ट था. आई अप्रिशिएट यू अ लॉट दैट आप बीच बीच में अपने लाइक यू आर गिविंग अ गुड यू नो you are completing the podcast by giving such a crucial advice. So
नहीं नहीं यार, मेरे को कंसल्टेंट बनना है, मेरे को बातें करना तो आना चाहिए. Otherwise, what's the point?
not bate, but yeah, it is really insightful. Well, okay, so like we have almost covered your whole college life, but there was one part which is still left, which is mentors guidance. You co-founded a startup named Mentor Guidance, like clearly visible. You are really great in giving guidance and guiding like freshers like me. So what was it about and how did it happen?
Yeah, so basically it started. So there's this guy, there's a senior called Tegman. Like shout out to him. He's like a great guy, extremely helpful. He's 2 years senior to me, and he was the placement coordinator of mechanical when he was in his final year. And I met him through my cousin, the one that I talked about initially. And that guy was extremely helpful in a lot of things. And later on in his final year, he started this similar thing, right? I don't know. I think it's called mentoring. I don't know if it's called that anymore. But essentially, what he did was he took sessions as to how to get placed, what is non-tech, because he went to non-tech, right? Now I think he's an Uber, if I'm not wrong, but in a non-tech role. So he took sessions for non-tech, and then when companies started coming, he made sure through his contacts कि अगर बेन आ रही है तो एक रात पहले या 2-3 रात पहले he'll have a session from somebody who's gone at Bain the previous year or the year previous to that, because that person will be the best person to tell you कि interview कैसा होगा, prepare कैसा करना है, resume में क्या क्या डाल, all the last minute tips. Then next day अगर if sprinkler is coming, then somebody who's already gotten placed into sprinkler. So that I think was extremely helpful, right? And I felt that bhai, I would also want to do something like this if I get placed early, because a lot of things that happened in my life happened because I got great seniors who were there to guide me, right? I remember the senior Aniket, he was the vice president at Enactus. That's how I met him when I joined the society. He got into Bain, but he decided not to join Bain. He joined some other startup. Then he also he got a deferred admission in like one of the top universities in USA for an MBA. So for my placements, I've talked to him. For my GMAT preparation, I've talked to him. When I was applying for these colleges abroad, I've talked to him. And every time, without fail, he's shown up and he's had calls 30 minutes, 1 hour long with me. Where he's shown कि अच्छा GMAT करना है, देखो ये 6 टॉपिक्स आते हैं, ऐसे ऐसे डिवाइड होता है, पेपर ऐसे ऐसे होता है, इस टॉपिक के लिए ये बुक बेस्ट है, इस टॉपिक के लिए ये बुक बेस्ट है. Once you do these books, practice these, divide your time into 4 weeks. week one do this, week two do this. It was like, bhai, this guy is going out of his way to help me so much, right? I remember sitting on a meet and उन्होंने एक word doc खोल रखा था where he was explaining all of these things to me and also writing them down, and then he sent and shared that word doc with me. It was like the way this guy or Tegman or all the other seniors that I've talked to, the impact that they've had on my life, right? I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for their help, right? So if I can have that impact even on one person, I think I'd be very happy, right? So if I've taken so much from them, I'd be happy to give it forward. So that was the main reason why I wanted to start Mentor Us. I wouldn't call it a startup. It's just something that me and three other friends do every year because I feel, again, if out of a batch of 1,000 people, I'm able to help one person get placed at the company that they want, right? Not necessarily Bain, but any company that they want. I think I'd consider this thing a success. And the reason finally it got started was when I was supposed to join Bain, जब मेरा fourth year end हो रहा था. Because of COVID, they rescheduled our joining dates, right? So they said कि अभी join नहीं करवा सकते हम, we'll tell you when to join. So we were free. So me, one of my friends who was part of my core group from the beginning, and two other people who had gotten placed at Bain. So we were like, कि अगर हम खाली ही बैठे हैं तो why I pitched this idea to them कि let's start this, and they were very excited about it. So that's how it happened that year. Next year which is last year essentially, 2024. I was working at Bain. All of them were working at Bain. So we weren't able to do it, but I was lucky to get a message from two juniors who were like, "Hey, आप बस हमें contacts we'll do the logistics, right? We'll make the WhatsApp group, we'll send meeting sessions, we'll contact those people and talk to them कि अच्छा इतने बजे meet है." So that's how it happened last year. This year I held one session just to give like an introduction and how to prepare case studies and everything. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do the company wise thing unless like I get a junior who can help me with all the logistics, because I know people who can take those sessions, but I won't be able to coordinate with them or like create WhatsApp groups and do everything. And I have kept it, मतलब I don't want to ask students to pay me for those sessions. तो लेके भी क्या करूँगा? मतलब I have taken those help from my seniors for free, right? They weren't like कि अच्छा ये 30-minute session. So I would not want to do the same to my own juniors. And again, things like, I think Topmate is a website where you can get paid for such stuff. I think that's also a great concept, right? But at least for my own DTU juniors or any junior that contacts me, I don't feel like I'm providing that much value that I take any money from them. So it's open for all. And like my goal is not to get like 1,000 participants in the meet link. Even if 10 join and 8 stay till the end, I'm happy with that.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. So I will definitely put the links and all in the description
Yeah,
of
yeah.
this. Like it is a really good initiative, and like जिस तरीके से आपने present करा that you are not looking for any monetary benefit from this, you are just giving back what you got from your seniors. It's a
Exactly.
really good initiative. Like in future, if I could, I would also would love to join this. So yeah. It was good. Now let us jump on to the next part, right? So now let us talk about broader picture, right? So let us talk about something for which everyone is panicking over right now. That is
Right.
AI. So yes. So even though it is like kind of a buzzword in tech, but
Right.
I'm very curious to know about AI in consulting. How do you use it in your day to day life, and how is it impacting consulting in general according to you? Like hiring, consulting as an industry, and how is it like impacting consulting?
So I'll preface it by saying I am in no way an expert on this, right? But I'll definitely give you what I think, what my 2 cents are. One, it's definitely going to impact jobs, right? That's a very logical conclusion. In tech, ke agar if I need 5 coders to do something, maybe I can leverage just two, and for the rest, I can use AI, right? Because the AI can write the base code, and then I can get the 2 people to improve it to the point where 5 people would have done it earlier, right? And same for consulting as well. So in terms of consulting, there's back end consulting where I'm doing very productized work कि मेरे को पता है कि मेरे पास ऐसी टाइप की फाइल आएगी, मैं ये करूंगा ये करूंगा ये करूंगा ये करूंगा, then the final output will look like this, right? So it's a standard of procedure. So that's way easier to replicate than what front end consultants do. So probably the work that I am doing is easier for the AI to replicate. So that essentially would also, companies would want to cut their cost there, right? It's easier to get a AI subscription than hire an analyst. But what a lot of front end is secondary research. And what I mean by that is, so for example, अगर मेरे पास automobile industry का case आता है and I am a front end, right? As an analyst or associate, I might not have knowledge about that, right? जो case लिया, जिस partner ने लिया, that's a specialist in that industry. But and probably the manager might have expertise in that. But as you go down, you don't have expertise, right? Then your key thing is that you learn through the duration of the case, right? So then I'll go and learn regulations about this industry, then I'll put them in a PPT, right? So leveraging AI comes in handy in those kind of things, right? So for example, if I want to do secondary research on a topic, I would want to do that myself as well, but अगर मैं एक deep research run 10-15 pages का एक result आ जाएगा with the exact sources, right? Even if I don't trust the AI, यहाँ से है, that's definitely helpful. I think that's how most people in Bain leverage it. Luckily, we get GPTUs with our own laptops. I think Bain and OpenAI have some partnership. And even for my work, I think when complicated formulas and Excel may, so I'll probably put it on there, right? If I want to do something a certain way. So I definitely use AI a lot, right? ChatGPT a lot. I do think in the next couple of years or maybe next 5 years at max, it'll change the way we work. But I do feel that I have a very positive outlook on this. So, for example, I read this book called Sapiens a couple of years ago. The author Yuval Noah Harari, if I remember correctly, he talks about the industrial revolution somewhere. I don't remember where, but he talks about how people were scared that तो machines आ गई हैं, अब factories में लोग काम ही नहीं कर. What he says in those things were that when computers came or like these machines came, right, everybody thought that the only kind of job that will remain is software engineering or people who make things on computers, right? But nobody thought that the spectrum of jobs this will open, right? A data analyst would be a separate job, an ML engineer would be a separate job, all of them in the computer arena is itself. Nobody thought of that. Or for example, a job like podcasting would be there. I don't think so anybody would have been able to predict that 20 years back or like 30 years back or whenever computers came. I think few iron laws in history frames it something like this is that we are very bad at predicting what happened in the future, right? We're very short sighted as a species. So I feel कि अच्छा it's true कि jobs entry level jobs चली जाएंगी, but I feel in general positive that something or the other will come out of this that will like retake the jobs that have gone.
ओके सो आपने बहुत ही ज्यादा लॉन्ग टर्म लाइक इनसाइट बताया है अकॉर्डिंग टू यू दैट इज गुड फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इससे थोड़ा क्लियर व्यू तो हमें मिला है बट व्हाट आर यू सेइंग ऑन द ग्राउंड रियलिटी दैट इज हैपनिंग राइट नाउ इन टर्म्स ऑफ हायरिंग व्हाट आई एम लाइक आस्किंग for the entry level jobs that but how will it change according to you?
Yeah, if I know correctly, the people who've joined my team recently, right? I don't think so. Their interviews were very different from what mine were, where like the case study or the guesstimate rounds was similar. I don't know how you leverage AI in like or use AI and integrate AI into those interviews. I think definitely coding में तो हो गया है, right? People don't expect you to do it all by yourself. You can take help of AI agents to code, right? They want to see your understanding, not कि तुम वो code लिख पा रहे हो या नहीं. In terms of non-tech, I'm not sure if the hiring process has changed that much, at least as of now. How it will
Okay.
change in the future, I don't think so. I have a lot of knowledge or I'll be able to correctly predict that. But in terms of the day-to-day work, I definitely think that ChatGPT is used extensively in terms of research and getting like a baseline thing, and then you can build upon from that, right? Because it definitely saves a lot of time and brings a lot of efficiency, right? You're not finding shortcuts, but I think leveraging that to decrease the amount of time you take for a certain task and maybe find things that you might not have found yourself. So yeah, I think that's the day-to-day reality, at least where I work. And in terms of hiring, at least अब तक जो join करे हैं, their process is still similar. It wouldn't hurt for you to know things about AI, right? Because just from the point of view of conversation, right? If I am extremely interested in AI as somebody who's taking your interview, I might not need that for the job, but if I'm able to talk to you for 15 minutes about AI and the latest developments, I definitely have a good picture with of you in my mind. So I think just from that perspective, I think there is no harm in being updated about what is going on in that world and how at least you are able to leverage that.
Okay, so one thing I want to mention and would love to know your opinion on it. So last I talked to Naman Bhaiya. He is SD2 at Atlassian. He's from your batch itself. He's from electrical branch. So like he told that in software, like in tech industry particularly, what is happening is that they are processing the cases much faster now because everyone are becoming so productive because of AI. So the case cycle is becoming very fast. So unlike like the past where software engineers, like software engineering in career was considered as a very chill job, it is started to convert to consulting, doctors and lawyers who have actually hectic jobs, hectic work culture, or you can say work life balance is started to becoming a lot worse than past in the tech industry. जैसा आपने बताया that AI is being used extensively in your workspace, is it
Right.
making your work life balance better, or are you also like the what I can say processing the cases much faster now?
I, I I think it definitely reduces the time a little bit, but I don't think so. I'd say it has the effect that you mentioned happening at Lashin or with that guy. I wouldn't say कि इतनी help हो रही है कि जो 2 दिन का काम था वो हम आधे दिन में कर पा रहे हैं. At the same time, I think not sure at Bain, but like in general, a lot of consulting firms or any firm for that matter would leverage AI to make tools and automate a lot of things. For example, what I do, I think it can be easily automated to an extent, right? So, for example, if a team of 5 people is being used for a certain task throughout the day, if that can be automated, I think the team can be reduced to 2 people and that task can be done in three-fourth of the day or even half a day, right? In terms of that efficiency can increase when you automate those things. But I think just by leveraging ChatGPT, I don't think so. The kind of work that we are doing, उसकी efficiency इतनी ज़्यादा.
Like as you stated the example from Sapiens, it was quite clear for us right now, so thanks for that. Now like we are reaching to the end of this podcast, so before ending this podcast, for closure I want to ask you one thing. What do you think you actually did right, and looking back at your journey, what are the things you think that you did right, and what are the things you think you should have done differently or you regret doing?
I think what I did right was that I kept doing something or the other, right? So for example, my internships might not match कि अच्छा ये तो second year से ही consulting में जाना चाह रही है, second year से finance में जाना. I was just doing everything that I felt could help me in my placement at Bain or like any good consulting firm or any non-tech firm. इधर उधर हाथ पैर मारते रहा, जो मिल गया, right? My internship was not backed by कि अच्छा I want to do an internship in this industry or this role. I was like, whatever I get, I'll do it, right? So I got yes from IIM Ranchi, I got yes from IIT Delhi. It's like I'll do both only. मतलब there's no harm in not like leaving one. So I think that's what I did right. Get a good peer group around you. Talk to a lot of seniors, right? Because they are 1 year or 2 years senior to you. तो जो तुम्हारे साथ अभी होने वाला है उनके साथ हो चुका है. If you talk to them, you might be able to escape a lot of mistakes that they might have done or they might have learned through, right? So you're saving that time. But at the same time, what I think I felt that I could have done differently, right, had I had more knowledge. One was being able to know the existence of deferred MBA. So deferred MBA as a concept is in my final year, I'll apply to an MBA at your college. I'll get the admission उसी time ही मतलब before I graduate or right after I graduate. But because they want you to come with experience, तुम्हारे पास seat है, but you will come when you have 2-3 years of experience, and that varies by college to college, right? Some colleges they have कि तुम 2 साल बाद ही आओगे, right? So after 24 months of work experience, you can join us. Some colleges have that in this range you can join, right? So maybe from 2 years to 4 years के experience में तो minimum तुम्हारे पास 2 साल हो. Then you can tell us कि whether you want to join that year or the next year. I think that's a that's an amazing thing, especially when you know that you want to go into non-tech, that you plan on doing an MBA later on. So why not get it done with in your college? For example, when I got free from placements, like, and I had the fourth year to myself, that's a great time to give the GMAT or the GRE and deferred MBA में apply कर लो, उसी साल तुम्हें admission मिल जाएगा, तुम बैठे रहो. मतलब then you have one way to target that you have to apply for an MBA or prepare for a GMAT once you start doing your job, because it's essentially way more difficult. तुम उस पढ़ाई वाले मोड में नहीं होते हो, फेज में नहीं होते हो exactly. You've not done mathematics quant like for quite some time, and then jobs are way more hectic than college life, especially at DTU. It's extremely chill. And secondly, I think it gives you the opportunity to explore a lot of things that you would not want to do if you don't have that admission in your hand, right? If I know कि अगर 2 साल बाद मैं इस अच्छे कॉलेज में जा ही रहा हूँ MBA के लिए, they can't take away my seat. I'd probably try for my hand at a startup or join some non-profit at a lower salary than a for profit, right? So, for example, that senior that I was talking about, right? He got an admit from a top US college for an MBA. I think could be wrong, but that shaped his decision to not go with his on-campus Bain placement, and he joined a startup.
Okay.
अगर मेरे को MBA का एडमिशन अभी नहीं मिला और मेरे को 2 साल बाद अप्लाई करना है, obviously I'd go with Bain because that's a better brand name, even if I learn less here. So I think that MBA, deferred MBA admission gives a lot of shape to what you are doing. I think what I could have done earlier if I had the chance or I could have like researched myself was get to know about this thing that it exists, right? I only got to know about it when that senior that I'm talking about got his admission, and then through him or through some society group I got to know कि अच्छा ऐसा भी होता है. So if I had known about it earlier, probably I would have made my profile a certain way, because at the end of the day, MBA में they want के तुम मुझे रीजन बताओ तुम क्यों आना चाहते हो, राइट?
Right.
तक मैंने ये करा है, आगे मैं ये करना चाहता हूँ, और आगे मैं ये इसलिए तुम्हारे कॉलेज में आना इम्पोर्टेंट है. दैट इज व्हाई दिस MBA इज इम्पोर्टेंट, बिकॉज आई कैन लेवरेज दैट to go from the position where I am to the position where I want to be, right? This is where it helps me. So they want a clear goal in your mind. They want you to have a streamlined set of experiences that you have. First year में ये कर रहा था, second year में ये कर रहा था, third year में ये कर रहा था. All of that led up to this moment where I want to be here, and then I want to do an MBA and then go there. I feel my experiences were a little all over the place, because again I said yes to anything I got my hand on. It wasn't कि मेरे पास 4 offers थे and then I decided this is the best one for me. So probably had I known about deferred MBA, I would have structured my profile in a way. But then again, I think I don't like to think in terms of regrets. I think I did the best I could or with the thing that I had. And probably हो सकता है कि शायद मेरे को deferred के बारे में पता हो और तब भी मैं कुछ ना कर पाता, because that were the resources that I had. But yeah,
Yes.
definitely that's what I try whenever I talk to a junior who's interested in non-tech. I definitely make sure that they know about deferred MBA at least. So maybe, even if one of their decision gets changed because they know of this concept, I think that's worth it. So what I could have done better was known about this deferred MBA, and second, I think get less into college drama, especially in societies. It's
Politics.
worth it if you get it in the end, but it's better if you have that peace of mind through like always. I think I'd prefer peace of mind over a president POR any day. If I feel that to get that POR I'll have to go through so much shit, I'd probably not do it. I'll get a vice president or a lower, because मेरे को नहीं लगता इतना फर्क पड़ता है. If I can get way more free time on my hands through that, I can prepare better for my other things. Then at the end of the day, अगर वो mental peace है, वो ड्रामा नहीं चल रहा आपके दिमाग में, so in general your quality of life is better. So you can just use that time to have fun with your friends in college. College life you only get once, and if you're lucky you can get all 4 years of it. I did not get 2 years because of COVID. I was online. So whatever college life you have, I think especially in DT, if you're living at the hostel, uh, I think it's a great chance to just do anything and everything, even if you're just being in the campus.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. It definitely really good insight about first of all that deferred MBA thing. मेरे को भी I guess पहली बार ही पता चला है, या पहले अगर पता होगा तो मैं भूल गया हूँ. So definitely ये भी एक अलग part definitely बनेगा इस podcast का.
नहीं नहीं वो तो you'd want anyway also even if you did not enjoy it. But yeah नहीं I think it was
I try to enjoy like सारी conversation
I
मैं
think
करता हूँ.
I think that's also an art the way I think you did it pretty well right asking the right questions because it's up to you तुम आगे वाले बंदे से कितना बुलवा सकते हो. Again, I'm
Yeah,
sorry I'm extending this a little bit, but I feel not just for podcasting, even for like reaching out to seniors, because
yeah.
they know a shit ton of things, right? It's up to you how
Yes,
much you can get out of them. Will it be a 5 minute conversation with awkward questions, or will it be a 40-minute conversation with actual insights? Because they'll be interested in telling you if you ask the right questions. So I
yes,
think that also, अगर तुम 10 cold calls करो, 10th पे जाके तुम्हें समझ आएगा कि ये गलत कर रहा हूँ, ये सही कर रहा हूँ. तो I think just reach out, and I think as much as you can learn about how to converse, how to get things out of them, how to be a good listener. That's a
yeah.
good skill in life as well, but it also especially helps you leverage a lot of these things in college.
Yes.
So I think you did it pretty well.
Thank you, thank you. Same is for you. So I think this episode gonna help a lot of people who are still figuring out, just like me.